Sally, great to be with you. You are presently serving as the head of Christian Aid Scotland. Christian Aid is focusing on some work in Ethiopia right now. Tell us about the situation in Ethiopia.
Okay. Situation in Ethiopia, again, goes back to one of the key things is climate change. Drought after flood, after drought, after food insecurity. The latest on top of this being COVID and also locusts. And biblical proportions is not an underestimation. Our head of humanitarian has said that if COVID hadn't come along and taken the world's imagination, that the locust infestation in the east of Africa would be all over the news. It is horrible. One swarm in one day can eat as much food as 35,000 people.
Sally, I follow the news. I read extensively online. I have not even heard of this locust infestation. Is it possible to give us a sense of the scale of this and the impact on the ground for ordinary folk?
Sure. The scale is massive. And what has happened is, again, climate change makes it almost a perfect storm. So you had long-standing drought in Ethiopia and in the east of Africa. And then you had massive cyclones and heavy rains are just pouring down. That's the perfect breeding ground for locusts. And the desert locust is the most aggressive. So we're talking about millions of locusts that then move across, and they eat everything. And as I said, they can eat enough food in one day for 35,000 people. And so that has been sweeping across Ethiopia and across the East Africa. So it's been huge. Add that to already folk were struggling because of the drought, so they're just recovering from those. And then you have the locusts coming and eating what's left, leaving people incredibly food insecure. And then you've got COVID on top of that, which complicates getting humanitarian aid to people. It complicates with travel. It rips away any kind of export that these countries have, that fragile bringing in of income. So it's been devastating.
Let me just clarify. You said there, I think, that the locusts will devour the food of how many thousands of people in one day?
35,000.
35,000 folk. We're at the beginning of Advent. And Advent is traditionally that season in which we look forward to what is coming, we anticipate, we long for that which will be revealed. Now it seems to me that we long for the kingdom. Thy kingdom come. Are we waiting in vain? Are we waiting in vain, Sally, or is there a different quality to this Christian longing and hoping that somehow underpins it with, if not certainties, then hopefulness?
One of the things that lights my fire at Advent is it isn't just this longing and waiting and longing, it's expecting. We expect that things will change, that the poor will be fed. When Jesus talks about, this is what my kingdom looks like, and it, blessed will be the poor will be blessed. The cue shifts. All of a sudden, people's priorities change. And those folk who have been pushed to the edges are brought to the center or given their space back in the center. So for me, Advent is not just about that longing and waiting, but that expecting that pushes you, that drives you forward to do things.
There's an Advent hymn, you've put it in my mind, Come thou long expected Jesus. What would that look like this year? Advent 2020, what would Jesus coming into the world look like?
For me, it would look like this. It would flip everything on its head. I think what it would look like is, instead of saying, I've got a little bit left over, I'll give that. It's look at all that we have. This belongs to all of us. Now, how do we share it equally? Switching around and not thinking about, as we were talking a little while ago, the locusts come in and they are sweeping across places and leaving nothing in their wake. Consumerism and capitalism and our obsession with stuff looks a bit like that sometimes for the world. locusts just sweeping in and taking everything. So actually, it would look to me like a huge rebalance.
You very much touched on something for me there, because years ago when my children were wee, maybe again we're of a similar vintage, Teletubbies.
Oh my goodness,
Well, my boys, my oldest boy wanted a Teletubby toy for Christmas. I was on every shop, the shelves were bare. And the image actually in my mind was that the locusts have come and just devoured and swept clean those shelves. But what a different thing we're talking about by way of scooping up stuff, as opposed to what's going on in Ethiopia. This has been a tough year for virtually everybody over the whole earth. We're looking for some joy, and not least as we move towards Christmas. Where is their joy? Even as we talk about Ethiopia and the locust, as you've described, is it hopeless? Is it despair? Or somewhere is there joy in the mix?
There's always joy in the mix. And I think it's one of the most extraordinary things to see people with nothing still reaching out to each other, still finding joy in each other, still being willing to share with each other in the most difficult times. I think joy is irrepressible. So is there joy? Yes, but I think we, in the midst of that joy, realizing how hard things are for people and acknowledging that, it has been a really difficult year. If we look at, as we sit here, not quite at Christmas, we don't know what that's going to look like for folk across the UK and here in Scotland. Will we be able to be with our families, or will we not? It's going to be bittersweet no matter what happens. But to be able to share with people gives joy.
You'll know well some of the passages that are often read at this time of year within church worship and so on, not least some of the Old Testament material in Isaiah, where we're told the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light, and we have a messianic picture. Is there anything in that Old Testament material, or even in the narratives that we read leading to the birth of Christ, is there something in that speaks particularly to you?
When you quoted that, the people who've walked in darkness have seen a great light, I think sometimes it's really freeing to say, okay, what light do I need to see? Who do I need to be listening to? Who can teach me? Who can teach me? And for us to listen to our friends in places like Ethiopia, who have so much to teach us about life and love and working together. So, we all can be light to each other.
Let me finish up with this. Here we are at the beginning of Advent. We have these weeks ahead of us, preparation, one might say. How are you going to use Advent this year, Sally, by way of readying yourself for welcoming Christ into his world once more?
Every year I try to claim that space back and really do that, sit back and wait. We don't wait well. So actually looking at this space that we've been given, we've been asked to wait and to watch and to expect. So what can we be doing differently as we wait and watch and expect?
Sally, the Church of Scotland and Christian Aid have long been partners together. Let me wish you well in your work and Christian Aid as an organisation as it continues to be at the very forefront of challenging us to make real the gospel news. Good to talk, Sally.
Lovely to talk to you.
Every blessing to you.
Thank you, and you.